On a battlefield drenched in ash and honor, a samurai staggers, covered in dust, his blade still gleaming under cherry bloom. His armor's lacquered black, but his skin darker still. He stands alone, defiant and unwavering. No one expected a foreign warrior to rise to the ranks of Japan's noblest, and yet, here he is. This is Yasuke, the Black Samurai. His story spans continents and cultures, warlords and wonder. But why has history almost erased him? Close your eyes and imagine this scene. The enormous caravels of the Portuguese fleet slicing through coastal African waters. Among them, a man with eyes that speak of ancient kingdoms in Mozambique, dressed in linen, recruited by Jesuit missionaries for his strength and curiosity. No one knows if he was royalty or slave, but they called him a nobleman. 16th century Japan, chaos and civil war, was ripe for strangers. Daimyo warlords sought advantage. The arrival of this man would change everything. Legend says the first thing Oda Nobunaga said to him, "Polish my armor." Yasuke wiped the lacquer, then his hands dripped in black that shimmered like new blade steel. Nobunaga exhaled. "Black as this iron. You are not just strong, you are unforgettable." In days, Yasuke wore samurai gear. His presence challenged everything, skin darker than ebony wood, moving with discipline. Rumors didn't stop him. When Nobunaga declared, "He is a man," samurai bowed. He was no samurai in name only, he was theirs. Yasuke drank sake with the elite. He sparred in training rings. He learned ancestral codes of honor, Bushido. He fought at Nagashino alongside muskets and horses. Stories survive, Yasuke charging through cavalry like a phantom. Samurai respected the rage and skill in his blade. Meanwhile, Jesuit letters spoke. He carries himself with dignity, pious and fearless. This was no trophy, he was chosen. When Akechi Mitsuhide attacked Honnoji, the skies wept fire. Nobunaga, trapped. Yasuke by his side, storming through assassins. They fought back to back, blood blended on stone floors. After Nobunaga's seppuku, Yasuke was captured. Mitsuhide, puzzled by a black man in full samurai garb, wondered, execute or question? He asked, "Is he a demon?" Reports say Yasuke dropped to his knees and answered, "I am a man." Mitsuhide paused and banished him instead. History skirts this moment, but the world did notice. Mitsuhide's brief reign fell. Then came Tokugawa Ieyasu and the long peace, Sakoku, Japan's isolation. Foreign tales like Yasuke's were locked away, hidden in temple margins, Jesuit witness books, and woodblock shadows. Europe grew obsessed with reproducible narratives. Japan constructed its own national myth. No room for this black samurai. He faded into the cracks of time. In Lisbon, hidden among trade logs, moço de cor, forte e manso, a dark-skinned lad, strong and gentle. In Kyoto temples, faded ink outlines of Yasuke's sword rising above others. Jesuit diaries mention him 11 times, always with awe. But even historians debating 1581 versus 1579 arrivals disagreed on basics. His name pronounced differently, Yashuku, Yasuku, Yasuke. Conspiracy? Maybe, but mostly neglect. And then, in the 21st century, a Netflix anime, a Marvel comic, documentaries, school lessons, storytellers, Yasuke became more than a curiosity, he's now icon. He forces us to ask, what stories are missing when we only teach a global history from one perspective? How many foreigners in textbooks were Black, Native, or Asian allies in shaping our world? Let's parse the debates. Was Yasuke born in the Congo River Basin? Mozambican coast? Some say he was a gardener, others a noble prince, both plausible. But look, his legacy is adaptability, dignity, humanity. His sword is mythical, but his spirit more real. He reminds us that culture isn't bound by birth, that honor can cross oceans, that history can be rewritten to include forgotten heroes. Yasuke is a mirror, showing us how much we don't know and how much we assume. He challenges not just samurai tradition, but global narrative norms. He urges us to uncover other stories hidden by time and ignorance. So next time you walk beneath cherry blossoms, ask, who else walked with us? Unseen, unheard, unforgettable? Yasuke was samurai. He was black. He was man. And his story is not just a footnote, it's a lesson. To understand Yasuke's rise, we must first understand what it meant to be a samurai. Not just a warrior, but a man of deep ritual, bound by loyalty, humility, and death. The sword was the soul. The code, Bushido, was more than words. It was sacrifice. Yet Yasuke was foreign. He didn't grow up kneeling before cherry trees or training with wooden swords at sunrise. Still, he was chosen. Why? The answer lies in Nobunaga's rebellion. A man who despised tradition, defied Buddhism's power, and saw potential not in race or birth, but in valor. Nobunaga admired strength, clarity, and ambition. Yasuke embodied all three. Many overlook this. Yasuke learned to speak Japanese fluently. Not broken phrases, not interpreted replies, he communicated directly with generals, monks, and scholars. Imagine that. A black African man debating Zen monks in Kyoto temples. Stories describe him discussing Confucian principles, engaging in haiku readings, and bowing with precision during rituals. He didn't just fight, he adapted. Even Nobunaga's son wrote of him with respect, saying, "He stood taller than most men and carried himself with the grace of a warrior born." In the Koyo Gunkan, a 17th century military chronicle, there's a vague reference to a dark foreign swordsman who moved through men like water through reeds. Scholars debate, is it Yasuke? The Jesuit letters archived in Rome mention him a dozen times. They describe his calm presence, loyalty, and refusal to flee during conflict. He was baptized, yes, but he didn't cling to European culture. He walked a line between worlds. In Japan, skin color held no fixed stigma like in colonial Europe. Foreigners were rare, yes, but not rejected. Curiosity, not hostility, met Yasuke. He was called Kurobozu, black priest, a term both descriptive and respectful. When he entered Kyoto, crowds came to touch his skin, believing it to be painted. When he bled, they gasped. He was real. What does this tell us? That identity is flexible. That race is often shaped more by narrative than nature. Yasuke wasn't just black, he was new, and Japan made space for him. After Nobunaga's death, Yasuke was taken to the Jesuit compound in Kyoto. He likely lived in Nanban quarters among Chinese, Portuguese, and other traders. But from here, the records vanish. Some claim he returned to Africa. Others think he stayed, living as a ronin, a samurai without a master. A few believe he wandered, telling stories of war and tea houses, cherry blossoms, and blood. Was he forgotten, or did he choose to disappear? Here lies the heart of our mystery. Yasuke's story was real, but it didn't fit any single narrative. Not the European colonizer's tale, he wasn't a slave. Not the Japanese national story, he wasn't born of noble blood. Not the African diaspora story, he vanished without legacy. He belonged to all and none. That made him powerful, but also easy to erase. History favors the repeatable. Yasuke was not. Yasuke wasn't alone. Malik Ambar rose to lead armies in India. Bilal ibn Rabah, an Abyssinian, was the first muezzin of Islam. In ancient China, the Tang dynasty recorded black ambassadors and entertainers. Why do we forget these men? Because colonial education systems didn't just conquer land, they conquered memory. They taught that black presence was limited to chains, not crowns. To remember Yasuke is an act of defiance. To speak his name is to challenge silence. For centuries, African stories were oral, passed in songs, dances, riddles. But now, we must build written records, digital archives, global echoes. Yasuke's tale is not just history. It is myth, prophecy, resistance. In 2019, Netflix launched an animated series based on his life. Hip-hop artists wrote lyrics in his honor. Marvel teased a comic. But beware, fiction can liberate or distort. Some stories romanticize him, others minimize. We must ask, are we telling Yasuke's story or using him to sell our own? Let's honor his silence by speaking with accuracy and awe. In Japanese tradition, samurai wrote death poems before battle. We don't have Yasuke's, but let's imagine one. From distant shores I came, bearing no name but courage. In steel I found home. Let the wind write the rest. Closing reflections. He didn't just break barriers. He walked through them as if they were never there. Not because he knew he'd be remembered, but because he believed in honor over legacy. Yasuke is not just the black samurai you never heard of. He is a symbol of the stories we all deserve to know. Stories that break the mold, cross oceans, and remind us of our place in the vast human epic. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. If you've ever heard of a surprising historical hero, share their name in the comments. And if you hadn't heard of Yasuke before, now you do. See you in the next episode of Black Legacy Stories.